I'm Michael Calhoun, KMOX News.
This is the Gashouse Gang on 104.1 FM KMOX. Sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin comfort dealer. And by Anderson Hospital, a Newsweek World's Best Hospital. Now, the Gashouse Gang on KMOX.
You know, we've been doing this show for a while now. Since kind of the start of the offseason, we did the streaming only, and now KMOX radio with Chris Ranji, producer Matt Pajeski. I'm Tom Ackerman, but it always feels better after a win. And that was a good, solid win yesterday. I don't care who they're playing. The White Sox are, you know, they were 16-18 at home, if I'm not mistaken, as rough as their season has been. They were starting to play a little bit better, I think. But the Cardinals went in there and put their foot down on them. And yes, the Cardinals looked a lot better, but good medicine there against the White Sox pitching, which I thought was going to be better than it was yesterday. With their starter had a nice amount of strikeouts, good ERA. But, you know, the White Sox are the White Sox, I guess, and the Cardinals did what they had to do.
Yeah, they are a bad baseball team. And as we talked about yesterday, and actually all week, they're not as bad as they were last year. It'd be difficult to be that bad because they were historically bad in 2024. But when you're facing a team like the White Sox now, you got to win those games. You just, the last thing you can do is get swept by this team. So they're at least going to avoid that. But you really should be at least taking 2 of 3 from them, especially if you're trying to keep some pace in the National League Central. You're 7 games back right now of the Cubs. You're tied with the Reds. Brewers are a half game in front of you. And in the wild card race, too. And I know for a lot of people, they don't really like to pay attention to standings in the middle of June. I do. I think it's part of the enjoyment of following along in a baseball season by the time you get to this month, because we're getting close to halfway through the year, right? I want to know where the team is. I want to know how on pace or off pace they are from the top of the division or from a wild card spot. I like to know. So to me, it is something that when you are paying close attention to the standings, knowing where the Cardinals are, you have to go into Chicago and win against a team like this, especially knowing you have 7 games coming up here, which will be really important to the division race. You've got the Reds for 3 after this, and then you got the Cubs at home for 4 starting on Monday. That is a difficult stretch of baseball.
You're right about that. They had to get this series. There's no doubt. And they haven't yet. I mean, they have to win this one tonight to get the series, and then the day game tomorrow to try to complete the sweep. Shane Smith came in with an ERA of 2.37. He leaves yesterday's game at 2.85. Cardinals get him for 5 earned runs, 6 total on 6 hits and 4 1/3. He walked 3. He struck out 2. Cardinals jumped all over him. And they get the runs in the second inning is when they really piled on. Brendan Donovan ends up 4 for 5 with 2 runs scored and an RBI. He either loves the leadoff spot or he loves White Sox pitching or both. But Donovan really hits everybody. Donovan now is at 323 for his batting average. Also a multi-hit day for Ivan Herrera, who was 2 for 5 with 4 RBIs. He's at 315. And Chris, Alec Burleson is on fire. He is now he goes 3 for 5 with a couple of runs driven in and a run scored. Burleson is now hitting 305 on the season. And taking a look at his June, so he hit in the month of April 260. By the time we were done with May, he hit 303. But he's at 385 for the month of June. I mean, he continues to rise like a stock that everybody wants to buy in on, and it's fun to see. I mean, he's one of the good guys. People love Burleson in that clubhouse. And when Jordan Walker made the team, the first person he credited with showing him around was Alec Burleson. I thought that was such a neat thing because Burleson was very young and competing for a spot. And by the way, still competing for a spot with Walker in some ways. Walker owns right field, but because Walker got hurt, it opened up more ABs for Burley, who plays right, did yesterday, also played first base. This guy is tearing it up. He sprays the ball to all fields. He blasted a home run yesterday. We know he's capable of that. He has 6 home runs so far this season. Victor Scott also had a home run. Cardinals win the ballgame 12-2.
So he's hitting fifth right now. And I'm just trying to think of what the Cardinals should do with their lineup. I'm not sure there's a whole lot of adjustment that you can do, with the exception of leaving Donovan right where he's at for now. And we'll see if Nootbaar starts to starts to come back and be a little bit more productive, because he just hasn't been. He's had a pretty bad year so far, with an OPS of 687. You're not going to get away with that. And you're definitely not getting away with that at the top of the order. And he was somebody who's supposed to be getting on base, and he's not even really doing that. So they have moved him down. But this is sort of, other than getting guys like Donovan as many at-bats as possible, and Herrera, who's been your best hitter this year, getting him as many at-bats as possible, I'm not sure there's a whole lot you can do with the lineup, just because everybody else has not really contributed much. Even Wilson Contreras, who was supposed to be your best offensive player, has been just okay. You need better than just okay from him. So I guess you just kind of leave him where he is. But other than moving Herrera up a spot or two in the order, which I don't know if you need to do it, but other than doing that, I don't know what you do with this. I think this is about how it can look for right now. They don't have a whole lot of options, honestly.
Thomas Saggese. So that name came up yesterday.
There's one thing you could do, I suppose.
He came up yesterday in the conversation with Ollie Marmol. And Marmol pushed back pretty quickly about where are you going to put him? Who is the one who's going to give up at bats for Thomas Saggese? One of our viewers suggested Jose Barrero, and he said, no, you not Barrero. Barrero's a bench guy. We're not going to replace Barrero with Saggese and then not have him do anything. Bernie Miklasz pushed back, I thought, a little bit gently, but pushed back that, you can you be creative and find a way to get Saggese in there? Meanwhile, Saggese, what does he do last night for Memphis? 2 for 3 with a 3-run homer and a walk. I mean, he is hitting .319 on the season. He is the 6th best hitter in the International League right now, Thomas Saggese. All he does is hit. I don't think it's that, and he did circle it back to the front office that it's more on them to decide when Saggese gets that call back. But I don't see a problem in letting Saggese take a couple of swings and run with it. I mean, he hits. That's what he does.
I mean, what do? You put him in left?
Yeah.
You bring him up, put him in.
Well, yeah, that's a good point.
I mean,
where
can.
Do you put him? Do you where the situation they're in right now with Herrera, because Herrera's got to be the DH, and when he's not,
correct,
you give it to Gorman
right,
or Burley. So they can't have Thomas DH. Arenado is your third baseman, and while you could give him some extra days off, you got the situation you're in at second with Donovan. And the only thing I see is that Newt, who isn't injured but is really struggling, takes more days off. You put Donnie out in left, and you have Gorman and Saggese handling second. You move Saggese over to third when you need to, or possibly short when you need to. I don't know, man. It's a tricky situation.
Because he hasn't really – has he ever played the outfield? I know he hasn't in the Cardinals at the major league level.
I'm sure that he can, and I'm sure that he has. I'd have to look and see. But, you can't just teach these guys on the fly. I'm having him in there as a hitter in some way, shape, or form. And I'm not worried as much about his development. I think I know they want to give him every day at bats and not waste him just kind of sitting on the bench. But man, I'll tell you what, I'd take Thomas Saggese coming off the bench for a big hit over a lot of people on this team right now.
Here's the difficulty is, and in this scenario, Lars Nootbaar is just not playing. I don't think you could do that either. Unless you've made the calculation that we overvalued him and that he's just not as good as we thought he was. I don't think I'm ready to make that determination about him yet, though.
Maybe what you do is you start putting Saggese in the outfield in Memphis right now and get him some outfield. What is that going to hurt? I mean,
I don't think it hurts anything.
Let him play around in the outfield and learn it right now. And then, if you got to move him in there, you move him in there.
I mean, it's not ideal, but I don't know if it hurts to try it out.
Yeah. It's it's a good group of players right now. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this offense. I think you pointed it out. There's not a lot that you can sit there and be too concerned about. There's just not there's not a ton of on base, and there's not a consistent outside of Donnie and Herrera. There's not, and Burley's starting to come on here. The consistency that you need. Boy, that would be pretty neat to see if Sajasi could take something and run with it. But as you just mentioned, and as Ollie mentioned, there's just not a lot of at bats to give. Now, maybe it works itself out and somebody, unfortunately gets hurt. It happens. Maybe it works itself out that you have to go send somebody down for seasoning or something like that. But man, there could be a move to be made. We'll see. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, June 18th is a very special day to me, and I know to a lot of Cardinals fans. I think about two people in particular on June 18th. Today is the birth date of Lou Brock, who we miss a lot. He was born on this date in 1939. And in 2002, on this date, we lost Jack Buck. I want to talk about both of them when we come back. This is the Gashouse Gang on KMOX. Hey, you have a guest coming at 12:30.
We have a guest. His name is Chuck Garfien. He covers the White Sox for Chicago Sports Network. Chuck's going to hang out with us for a bit. He has to work with Ozzie Guillen every day.
Oh, man. Wow. This is going to be a piece of cake for him.
It's going to be.
Back in a moment. The Gashouse Gang, sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling. SaligaHeatingandCooling.com.
When you retire, the paycheck from your job will likely stop. But here's what won't stop. Bills, taxes, and medical issues. Sure, there's Social Security, but that may not be enough. Steve All and his team at the All Financial Group can show you potential ways to develop a new stream of income that can last as long as you live. Kind of like having your own personal pension. You won't have to worry about whether the market is up or down or who's sitting in the White House. You can spend your time instead on the things that matter, like family, friends, and doing the things you never had time to do before. Call Steve All today at 636-230-8824. That's 636-230-8824 and schedule a custom income review at no charge. Or find us online at yourmoneymattersstl.com. Investment advisory products and services made available through Impact Partnership Wealth, LLC, IPW, a registered investment advisor. Neither the firm nor its agents or representatives may give tax or legal advice.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated the best hearing aids of 2025 by Forbes Health, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, starting at just $98 a pair.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 1 million happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
Hey, Green Gobbler here. So you've got a clogged drain in your bathroom. Water in the sink's overstaying its welcome. You're spitting today's toothpaste on top of yesterday's toothpaste. You hope that it go away. Yeah, clogs don't just go away. I make them go away. I'm Green Gobbler, the only clog dissolver you need. I'm bleach-free, safe for your pipes, and I work. Guaranteed or your money back. Because I never met a clog that was going to unclog itself. Green Gobbler. Let the gobbler get it.
Named one of Newsweek's world's best hospitals for 2025, Anderson Hospital is your hospital for life, delivering exceptional, compassionate care to families across the Metro East. From emergency services to specialized treatments, our dedicated team supports your health at every stage. Experience world-class care close to home. Discover the difference at andersonhospital.org.
Summer is here. Time to enjoy baseball, barbecues, and the shade of your trees. When it comes to tree care, call the certified arborist at Gamma Tree Experts. Hi, I'm Tim Gamma. Protect your valuable trees from storm damage or devastating insects such as the emerald ash borer. Knowledge and quality are hallmarks of our reputation. For pruning, spraying, fertilization, or removals, call Gamma Tree Experts today at 314-725-6159 or visit us at gammatree.com. Your trees deserve the best care.
Zero Res wants to help you clean your home or business. Big summer savings with 3 rooms clean starting at just $129. $75 off your air duct cleaning. Visit ZeroResSTL.com and ask for the Dave Glover KMOX special.
If you owe the IRS, you have a legal issue, and you need the Lance Drury Law Firm. We'll protect your rights. Log on at LanceDruryLaw.com.
You asked, we delivered. KMOX, now on FM. Crystal clear sound at 104.1 FM.
The 2-2 pitch. Breaking ball. Hit off the pitcher. To the third baseman. No play. Base hit. 3,000 for Lou Brock.
Wow. I mean, that call just, sends chills up and down your spine. Jack Buck calling hit number 3,000 for Lou Brock. Those two will be tied together forever. You think about the stolen base record, 105 for Lou Brock, and all those great times that they had together. June 18th is a sad but special day in so many ways, because I get to talk about and think about both of them. Lou Brock, born on this date in 1939. Mr. Buck passed away on June 18th, 2002. Let's talk about Lou for just a moment. Lou Brock, when you think about the Mount Rushmore of Cardinals, and I'm not a big, who's on the Mount Rushmore type topic, but I just brought it up. He's on it to me. He's a big part of Cardinal history, and they don't win it without Bob Gibson, and they don't win it without Lou Brock, that acquisition in 1964, in which the Cardinals made the trade with the Cubs, and he electrified Major League Baseball. And it was also the fact that, he could do a lot of things. He was a very, very good hitter, as described right there, over 3,000 hits. He could field his position. He could obviously steal and cause havoc on the base paths. Great teammate. Everybody loved Lou Brock, and just a sweetheart of a person. After his career, the Hall of Famer, gave back, year after year after year, to the youth of this community. And I was there to witness it. I worked with him on many charitable projects, and so many that did not get publicity. He just went and did them. He and his wife, Jackie, spent so much time around people. And in particular, he was big on giving kids opportunities to succeed, go to school, and flourish. And I miss him every single day.
Did not get the opportunity ever to meet Lou Brock. Not. Jack Buck met him a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
I know you knew him really well.
Yeah. And to me, he is the St. Louis Cardinals and St. Louis growing up, the soundtrack of the summer, the voice of baseball in so many ways. When Harry Carey did the games and Jack did them with him, Joe Garagiola, and then later Jack and Mike. Jack broadcast with Joe. Jack, of course, did Monday Night Football, which he's known for nationally on radio with Hank Stram. He was as gifted a broadcaster as anybody in the history of the medium, radio. He did television and did it very well. But I think that one of the greatest things that he ever did, and those who saw him would agree with me, he's the greatest master of ceremonies this city has ever had and ever will have. There is nobody that could get up in front of a crowd and have them in the palm of his hand like Jack Buck could. Funny, witty. He would, during the events, he would sit there and scribble notes on a napkin and then come back up because he'd spot somebody in the crowd, and he would call them out and just have some fun with them and tease them. And yeah, the humor, over the years has changed. He back then he was just, his jokes carry through time. They're still funny, and it was all about his timing and his ability to deadpan and his ability to connect. He was, I think if I were to sum up Jack Buck, I would say that he just loved people. And it didn't matter what your position was or where you were. When you were around Jack Buck and he looked you in the eye, there was nobody else around. He treated you like you're the only person, the most important person in the room. And he really did want to know who you were and what you were all about. And he didn't forget it. He would see you the next time and say, "Hey, Chris, how's that going with and he would know. And there was just a special twinkle in his eye and something about him that just made him stand out above anybody I've met in this business.
Yeah. So 23 years ago today, we lose Jack Buck. And I can't think about, I always think about how awful of a week that was, because you lose him. And then 4 days later, you lose Daryl Kyle. And this was already at a time where I think we were all kind of sensitive, just because 9/11 happened a few months prior, 8 months, 9 months prior. So that's still fresh. And we were a different country at that time. And I think we were all kind of sensitive. And then if you're a Cardinals fan, you had these two things happen within less than a week. That was a pretty awful week, I think, for all of us, that those things happened.
It was very, very difficult. And it's one of Tony La Russa's greatest managing jobs of his career, was to get the 2002 team together. And they ended up, if you recall, making the playoffs and being a very strong and sometimes dominant baseball team that came up short. But it was a very close group, and they were very connected, and they played through a lot of sadness. It was very difficult. Who started the game the night that Jack Buck died was Daryl Kyle. He started that game on June 18th and was very good and won the game against the Angels, which, all caught us by, touching our heart there that it was against them. But anyway, June 18th is just, one of those days that we reflect.
And I'm always going to have a soft spot for Joe Girardi too, who was playing for the Cubs at the time. And that was a terrible moment where the Cardinals and Cubs are at Wrigley Field about to play a game, and no one's on the field. Nobody is getting ready. There's no warming up. And then Joe comes out and makes the statement about that there's been a tragedy in the family, and we didn't know right away what it was. And, you just have all of that going on in a very short period of time. For a Cardinals fan, that is some really traumatic stuff. It was, man, I'll not, because I was in my, young 20s, I think, at the time that happened. And that was pretty affecting to me when that was all going on.
Same. Very, very tough. And I had lost my dad not too long before that to a heart attack. And, it was just a very, very difficult time. And the Cardinals have lost some great people along the way, and to lose Jack Buck, Daryl Kyle in the same week. Daryl Kyle was not only a great pitcher, but man, did they love him as a teammate. I remember witnessing Kyle, who I talked to Albert Pujols about Daryl Kyle today. He will tear up because Daryl took him under his wing. Daryl would pull Albert aside and say, "Hey, let me tell you something about tonight's starting pitcher."
Mm-hmm.
And he would give him some tips. And Albert, ended up being not only one of the greatest hitters of all time, but I think he took a lot of those leadership qualities from Daryl and used those with his teammates on future teams. And Albert became one of the greatest ever at looking at a pitcher and knowing what his tell was, what kind of pitches he threw, what his sequencing was. Albert was brilliant at that. But more than anything, the father and husband that Daryl Kyle was, Albert took that to heart. And Albert, by the way, did get to work with Jack Buck as well. Jack called some of his first games in 2001 before Mr. Buck at his own awards, which at the time was called the Sports Personality of the Year Awards, went to the podium in December of 2001 and said, "Folks, I've got to get going. And, it's been a great night." And he drove himself to the hospital and stayed in the hospital from that point forward. That's man, what a man he was. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will have
Chuck Garfien.
Yes.
Chicago Sports Network. Yeah. We'll talk about that crappy team.
Appreciate you setting that up.
Yeah.
We'll be back in just a moment. It is the Gashouse Gang on KMOX. The Cardinals and the White Sox tonight at 6:40. We're sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling, SaligaHeatingandCooling.com.
Just hearing the word IRS can make people break out in a cold sweat. No one wants to deal with the IRS, and now you don't have to. The good news is Legal Tax Defense has been successfully negotiating with the IRS for more than 15 years. It doesn't matter how much you owe, whether it's $5,000 or $5 million. You deserve the best in the business on your side, and that is Legal Tax Defense. Even if you're working with someone else and just want a second opinion, there is no cost or obligation to call. They can prevent levies, liens, wage garnishments, even file back tax returns. And the best news about Legal Tax Defense is they won't take your case unless they know they will reduce or eliminate your tax debt. Call Legal Tax Defense right now for a free no-risk consultation. 800-979-3168. 800-979-3168. You have nothing to lose but everything to gain. 800-979-3168.
It is 84 degrees with the heat index now at 87. Still could see some storms before the afternoon is over. The weather brought to you by Terrace Senior Living of Eureka.
Check out the Terrace in Eureka for affordable senior living with 24-hour nursing supervision, delicious meals, medication management, and activities. The Terrace is affordable and will work with your Medicaid plan. Go to rspseniorliving.com and look for the Terrace Private Assisted Living.
So you're thinking, great boat, 60 grand, but hey, we can have fun on the water. She's thinking, what, 3, maybe 4 months a year if we're lucky? You're thinking tow ropes and wakeboards. She's thinking granite countertops and undermount sinks. You're back to thinking about summers. But she's thinking about all year, every day, rain or shine. And she's also thinking 3 days and about half the cost. That's right, 3 days and half the cost. Your kitchen or bath can have a completely new look in just 3 days or less. Guaranteed. Top quality products and craftsmanship, 100% satisfaction guaranteed. And you and your family will enjoy it all year, day in and day out, with no tow ropes needed. Now, what are you thinking? Find out more about how your kitchen or bath can be the kitchen or bath of your dreams in just 3 days. Just visit 3daykitchen.com. That's 3daykitchen.com.
3-Day Kitchen and Bath.
At University of Maryland Global Campus, we give our students credit where credit is due. Credit for deciding in the middle of rush hour traffic to go back and get their bachelor's and a promotion. Credit for managing 3 kids, 2 dogs, and a full-time job to pursue an MBA. And credit for serving in the military by day so they can study cybersecurity at night. For over 75 years, we've been helping students receive the credit they deserve. With more than 135 degrees and certificates, students at UMGC can use prior learning or relevant experience to earn up to 90 credits toward a bachelor's, and graduate students can transfer up to 12 credits toward their master's. At UMGC, you'll find everything, online to hybrid courses, lifetime career services to scholarship opportunities, making your education journey flexible, fast, and affordable. Classes start soon. Learn more at umgc.edu. That's umgc.edu. Certified to operate in Virginia by Chev.
At CertaPro Painters, we know that a happy place comes in many colors, like ones that inspire a sense of wonder, or a new flavor that makes life just a little bit sweeter, or one to celebrate those moments that lift you to new heights, at home or at work. We'll make your happy place your own. CertaPro Painters. That's painting happy. Each CertaPro Painters business is independently owned and operated. Contractor license and registration information is available at CertaPro.com.
Need a lawyer? Onder wins. Call Onder Law at 314-9-million. That's 314-9 all zeros. Or go to onderwins.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements.
Tonight, the Cards, the White Sox.
Cameron Total Access 545.
Cardinals Radio, 104.1 FM KMOX.
There's a swing and a long one to right field. That ball's going to leave the yard. A home run for Victor Scott II.
Vic with the bomb yesterday as the Cardinals beat the White Sox 12-2 with Chris Ranji and producers Matt Bajeski, Tyler Rosen. I'm Tom Ackerman. We welcome in Chuck Garfien, who is the host on the Chicago Sports Network, doing a little White Sox pre and post with Ozzie Guillen. Joins us live on the Gashouse Gang. We thank Chris Ranji for setting things up with Chuck. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, Chris Ranji. I've known him for a long time.
That's right.
It is great to talk with both of you. And Chris, it's great to reconnect with an icon here in Chicago, and I'm sure an icon in St. Louis.
Well, I don't know about either one of those. I'm a big deal in Chicago. Chuck is Mr. White Sox now, though.
Am I Mr. White Sox?
Yeah, I think so.
I am the Mr. for a team that is in a deep rebuild, trying to get out of the dungeon, so to speak, and hopefully they can play better baseball today. If there's baseball, we got a big storm coming. We'll see if they're going to play this game tonight.
Oh, well, that would be bad. So, I mean, that's a thing that I have found, watching you on Chicago Sports Network, and especially last year. It wasn't a good season, but it was enjoyable to me to see you lose your mind sometimes, having to watch that baseball team and then doing so publicly on television. How'd that feel?
Not good, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it made for entertaining television. And I appreciate the White Sox for letting us, kind of tell it like it is, right? And, there's a lot of regional sports networks who are very close to the vest and very team friendly. And not that I'm not, I am friendly with the team, but, the whole feeling needs to be, if you're a fan and you just watch the game and you watch the season unfold, and like the season we had last year, and like the house is burning down, and I'm not saying the White Sox house is burning down, but figuratively speaking, and to say there's nothing to see here, everything is fine, I'd be lying to the fans. And I think the White Sox let us kind of tell people what's really going on, what they saw and what we see. And last year was the worst record in the history of modern day baseball, and we kind of let it be known. Ozzie is a very outspoken personality. Says things his own way. And I grew up a White Sox fan, so I kind of have the White Sox fan mentality combined with being a sportscaster, and I kind of convey that part of it as well. And we have a great time doing the show. Like I've said on the air many times, our best shows tend to be after losses.
Chuck, can you describe what is the White Sox fan mentality? We know who the Cubs are. We've been around their fans for years. We've been drinking beers with their fans for years up on the north side and here in St. Louis. We know them. Who are the White Sox fans?
Well, White Sox fans have something in common with St. Louis Cardinals fans in that they pretty much hate the Cubs. Or not hate the Cubs, they hate some of the Cubs fans. But I will say this, like White Sox fans, it's in their blood, this team, and they carry around their love for this team with a badge of honor, right? It's very easy to be from Chicago and become a Cubs fan, or move to Chicago and become a Cubs fan because they play at the amusement park known as Wrigley Field, which I like to go to. I like going to amusement parks, and Wrigley Field is a lot of fun. But if you're coming to a White Sox game, for the most part, you are there to watch baseball. And White Sox fans, they've been carrying their love for this team from generation to generation. It is more working class. And to be honest with you, when I look at a crowd at a White Sox game, what do I see? I see a more complete representation of Chicago. When I see the crowd at Wrigley, I see pockets of Chicago and a lot of tourists. And I'm not saying like one is better than the other, because I do, again, like going to Wrigley Field, but I just feel like that's what the South Side White Sox fan base is more like, just more of a collection of the whole city versus just pockets.
You know what it's like? It's Sox fans more than Cubs fans, even though Cubs fans can, they can be upset. But my impression of Sox fans, I guess if you really boil it down, it's they don't like being lied to. It's like hey, I can see what's going on. Don't give me your BS. That's kind of the mentality of a Sox fan. And I think it's almost all of them.
You know what? And on top of that, like, we're known as the second city. Well, we are like the second baseball team in the second city.
That's true.
So it's like a double identity crisis that White Sox fans have. They won the World Series in 2005, and yet ESPN, I would say, I don't know, 8 to 10 times since '05 have put out things on SportsCenter where they have basically stricken it from the record and don't even include the White Sox winning the World Series championship. They'll say, like, here are the last 7 championships in Chicago, the Bulls, the Cubs, the Blackhawks, and they'll forget about the White Sox. So you throw that into the equation, and White Sox fans just get so irate, like we don't even exist.
That's so funny because that was a thing for there was like this 7-8 year period where it was ESPN and it was like CBS Sports and SI and there are Fox. They would do a live, a national broadcast, and they would talk about all the Chicago championships in the last 20 years, and they would just not have the Sox on it. It was like this running joke where, okay, really, you're going to forget about them again? So it's very funny.
Honestly, a lot of us wanted the White Sox in '05 when they won the World Series to play the Cardinals, as you guys all know. Yep. They were so close. They were knocking on the door, and they lost to the Astros in the NLCS. We wanted to see that matchup. Tony La Russa, former White Sox manager, former manager to Ozzie Guillen, who was the manager of the White Sox. They wanted it. We all wanted to kind of see that matchup unfold. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. But what also gets lost is that now that the White Sox win the World Series in '05, they went 11-1 in the playoffs. They just dominated. The Red Sox were the defending champs, swept the Angels, swept the Astros, and yet people have somehow forgotten that it actually happened.
They had 4 straight complete games.
Yep. That won't happen. That won't happen until there's like robots playing baseball. So that doesn't ever happen.
And John Rooney, our very own, was the voice of the White Sox then in 2005. We were talking to Chuck Garfien, Chicago Sports Network. Recently, Tony La Russa, as you know, Tony 2.0, managing the White Sox. I kind of took issue with some of the harsh criticism right away. I thought, hey, hold on a second now. This is Tony La Russa we're talking about, a Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest managers of all time. But, boy, Chicago media did not give him much breathing room. I mean, they were all over. But was that more directed to Jerry Reinsdorf and White Sox leadership, or was it on Tony or everything else?
I think it was probably everything, right? It was, Jerry Reinsdorf basically made the hire to put Tony in there to try to turn a wrong into a right, because he allowed Hawk Harrelson, who was the GM at the time, to fire Tony La Russa, and then La Russa went on to win World Series with the A's and the Cardinals, so he wanted to bring him back. He certainly didn't seem like the right fit from the get-go with this young team. It was supposedly fun. Wasn't so much fun. There wasn't as much fun as we thought there'd be. He made some puzzling decisions, old school things that he would say, and yet they did win 93 games and won the division. But the other reason why they won 93 games and the division is it happened to be a year when the rest of the division stunk, and they just, tore the AL Central apart. That was a good enough team to win the division, and they did, and that's never going to change. And then the following year, they were supposed to be great again and compete, and they went 81-81. Tony had health problems, and just everything all just unraveled. This was not, the situation that anyone expected. And meanwhile, A.J. Hinch was supposed to be the manager. That's who Rick Hahn wanted to hire. What does he do? He then goes and signs with the Tigers, and now the Tigers are in first place. So that's kind of like staring the White Sox in the face, like what could have been. So, and ever since then, they Tony left, and now then you had Peter Grifol, and that was a disaster. And now there's a new manager in Will Venable. So I'll tell you this: White Sox fans have been through the ringer, and so have I.
I will say, Chris, I'm more attracted to the White Sox now than I've ever been. I have this thing for teams that have been tortured and frustrated.
Oh, dude.
Just like wanting them to do well. So, not tonight, obviously, but I'll be pulling for you.
It was easy as a Cardinals fan to jump on the Sox thing. Yeah. It was easy to make that transition, just because, like Chuck said, I had my post-game shows, more often than not, the person would call in, a Sox fan would call in, and I'd say, hey, Jim, how you doing or whatever. And they would say, well, the Cubs lost, so I'm doing pretty well. Like it didn't, like if the Sox just played a game. How do you feel about this? It was, well, the Cubs lost. I'm doing great.
Yeah, that always helps, and even I do that myself. And when I did not live in Chicago, I'm from here. I've been back here for 20 years. But when I did not live here, I was like, hey, I want the Cubs to win. They hadn't won a World Series. But when you live in Chicago, I'll just speak for myself. When you live in Chicago and the Cubs are good and you are not a Cubs fan, you get tortured a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And do I find myself, after a White Sox loss, looking to see what the Cubs did? And if they lost, I feel better? Yes. So I'm one of them. Maybe I was one of those fans that called your show and said, hey, I'm Steve from Bridgeport, Rocco from Beverly. I can't stand this team, but at least the Cubs lost, so I feel better.
Actually, I did have a Rocco who used to call in. Rocco from it was Rocco from Beverly, and he would sit in his he would sit in his garage and he would drink Jack Daniels and he would call in. That's what he did.
Well, the one good thing, I guess, I don't even say it's a good thing. I wouldn't mind it. We do not take phone calls on our post-game show. That would be a lot of fun.
Oh, with Ozzy?
Maybe we should.
You should. How is Ozzy doing, and how often do you feel like he's going to say the wrong thing and you'll both be in trouble?
You know what? I never feel like he's going to say the wrong thing because he has, despite all the things that he says, he has very good control of his words on the air. And if I sense that he's going down a path that could lead us into some trouble, I will reel it in very quickly. But the reality is that, what we never do on the show is make it personal. Never. And as long as we do that, and Ozzy does that very well, we'll be fine. He did, I guess he did make it personal with Pedro Grifol. He just ripped him to shreds. So actually that's
the last manager.
Yeah, but that was just, it was more about how Pedro spoke to the media, what he said, how he said it, and I don't know if everyone seems to get it, but when the manager speaks, you're not speaking to the media, you're speaking to the fan, and that's if I was to do PR for a team, I would say that all the time. Hey, you're not just conveying information, you are our mouthpiece. You are representing the team. This is PR 101. And how you talk, I know winning cures everything. That's the best PR. But in the meantime, how a manager talks and what he says, that goes a long way with your brand as a team, your brand as a manager, and how people perceive you as a manager, and how your players perceive you as a manager.
That's exactly right.
There's a lot to it. And I think it just seems to me that a lot of managers, if they don't take it for granted, they don't seem to get it.
Chuck,
to get it.
One last quick thing before we go. Sonny Gray against Sean Burke tonight. What can fans, hope you get this game in, what can fans expect from your starter Burke?
He struggled his last outing to give up, 8 runs against the Astros. But what I'm finding is the White Sox have the ability, or their pitching staff has a kind of ability to quickly turn things around. Their starting rotation is the strength of the team. I know yesterday was a disaster for the White Sox, but they're in a lot of games. They've lost, I think, more than half of their losses have been by 2 runs or less. I think Burke will keep them in it. The Sox just aren't scoring enough runs, and that's been their biggest problem to date. And Sonny Gray has owned the White Sox, so that's going to be a tough matchup for them.
Well, Chuck, you are my favorite Chicago meatball. It's good to talk to you. Thanks for hanging out with us today, and hopefully you don't get rained out tonight.
Yeah, and if so, we're looking at a doubleheader tomorrow. So we'll cross our fingers. Mother Nature should hopefully clear things up for the White Sox today.
We will keep that in mind. Fun guest. Great to visit with you. Thanks for being with us on the Gashouse Gang.
All right, great to be with you. Chris, always a pleasure talking to you.
My guy.
Chuck Garfien with Chicago Sports Network on KMOX. When we come back, we'll give you a couple things to look for tonight as the Cardinals and White Sox get after it at 6:40. It's the Gashouse Gang on KMOX.
Hey, it's Debbie Monterey, and between now and the end of the summer, chances are that you or someone you know is in the market to buy or sell a home. And like me, you probably know a few realtors. Well, yeah, I know several as well, but when someone I know needs to sell their home, I always recommend Gloria Liu with Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. I've been telling you about Gloria for years now, and here's why you should call, because no matter what the market does, Gloria Liu will guarantee up front and in writing to sell your home at 100% of market value, or Gloria will pay you the difference.
St. Louis home sellers, if you're looking for certainty and the most money guaranteed for the sale of your home, call me, Gloria Liu. My name is My Promise, Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Call me directly at 314-325-6888 or visit me online at gloriahasthebuyers.com. That's gloriahasthebuyers.com.
Gloria and seller must agree on price and possession date.
The legends ride again. Willie Nelson and the Outlaw Music Festival is rolling back into St. Louis June 28th at Hollywood Casino Amphitheater. Don't miss the living legends, Willie Nelson, Bob Dylan, along with Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats, and more, live right here in St. Louis. This is country the way it was meant to be. Tickets are still available, so get them before they're gone. More information can be found at KMOX.com/events.
I'm Ultima Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Every time one of my children started driving, it was terrifying. Thousands of accidents happen across the country. We see it every day. If you've been injured in a car accident, call us.
Dial pound law or visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
When it comes to DSPs, usability matters. Some platforms vary you in complexity. Results-driven advertising shouldn't look like a chemistry experiment. Viant's AI-powered DSP streamlines setup, automates measurement and optimization, and keeps you in control. Less clicking, more strategy. And with proven CTV leadership across premium publishers, Viant works smarter and delivers stronger. Why are you still trading on a desk? Visit Viant.ai to unlock real results today.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at ethos.com/radio. That's ethos.com/radio.
You had a solid retirement dream: sell your home in a few years, bank the equity, downsize, and travel. But with an unpredictable economy and the future feeling uncertain, you're wondering if that equity will still be there when you're ready. What if you could bank that equity right now? With TrueHold, you can sell your home for its current value so you can access your equity today. You can bank the cash now and stay in the home you love with an easy standard lease. TrueHold even covers property taxes, insurance, and repairs. And since TrueHold hands over your equity in cash now, it's yours to do whatever you like. Don't let a shifting economy put your hard-earned equity at risk. Visit TrueHold.com and receive their competitive offer on your home in just 48 hours, based on its best current value, not what's coming. Call 1-855-300-9993 or visit TrueHold.com. The smarter, faster way to cash out on your home's value without moving. That's TrueHold.com.
Here's a few questions for you from California Psychics. Do your workdays seem to go on forever? Is your career progression as fast as downtown traffic? Or does your boss still not know your name?
Hey, you, Tina, Lisa, Sheila, whatever. Get that report to me by lunch, okay? It's Terry, ma'am. Just get it done, Terry.
It's time to read the career warning signs and talk to California Psychics. We're always on hand to give you the career guidance you need. You see, we only connect you with the very best. In fact, 98% of the psychics who apply to work with us don't make the grade. That's why we can guarantee if your reading isn't life-changing, it's free. So you could soon be telling your boss where to stick that report.
Where are you going, Terry? Terry!
Experience the joy of certainty. California Psychics. Call 1-800-PREDICT today and get 20 minutes for just $20.
Now back to the Gashouse Gang, sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling and by Anderson Hospital on 104.1 FM KMOX.
couple of minutes left here on the Gashouse Gang. Hey, before we close out with a thought on Cards White Sox, congratulations, Matthew Tkachuk. The St. Louisan wins his second Stanley Cup back-to-back for Tkachuk. I have seen this picture make the rounds. Ranj, I'll show it to you. I'll put it up on the screen here for those. This is Matthew holding a cigar. He's taking a pull from the cigar. He has a bottle of champagne in his left hand and a Bud Light in his right hand while holding the cigar, and people have called that a Keith Tkachuk hat trick. So
nice.
I'm sorry, a Matthew Tkachuk hat trick. Very
good.
Nice. Keith, I'm sure had a wonderful night as well. But congratulations to Matthew, one of the good dudes and a St. Louis guy.
Sorry to say this, but I was rooting for Edmonton.
No, that's fine. I was too, actually.
I want the Canadians to get a cup, man.
I feel bad for the Oilers.
I don't mean the team. I just mean the country. They deserve to have a Stanley Cup.
So Chuck Garfien brings up the point that Sonny Gray has dominated the White Sox, and that's really all I'm looking for tonight. I think this Cardinals offense is fine. I think that Sonny has got to reestablish, and this rotation has to reestablish a foundation of winning. And it starts tonight for Sonny. I think he'll be very good tonight.
He was good in his 4 starts prior to the last one. 4 straight quality starts. Keep doing, go back to that. Go back to that because you're going to have to keep giving your bullpen work and helping them out because I know there was an offensive explosion last night, but lately it hasn't quite been there for them. So everybody needs to get back on track.
And the one thing in baseball that doesn't slump is defense. And the Cardinals defense is elite. It just keep that thing going. You should be okay.
Bad baseball team you're playing tonight, too. Beat them.
Go beat them. A lot of huge games coming up. Jeez. Reds this weekend. Cubs next week. Oof. Here we go. Cards and White Sox, 640 for Chris Ranji, Matt Pajeski, Tyler Rosen. I'm Tom Ackerman on the Gashouse Gang.
Named one of Newsweek's world's best hospitals for 2025, Anderson Hospital is your hospital for life.